The desert wind carried dust across the endless plains, its whistle mixing with the sound of distant drums. A cowboy rode his horse slowly through the rugged land, searching for strays from his small herd. He lived a quiet life, hardened by the frontier yet softened by a heart that still believed in honor. As the sun sank low, he spotted something unusual, a trail of blood across the rocks leading into a narrow canyon. Curiosity and caution guided his steps, and soon he came upon a figure slumped against the stone. The man was an Apache leader, his chest marked by a gunshot wound. His breathing was shallow, his strength nearly gone. Instinct told the cowboy to leave. Helping an Apache could mean death if the tribe discovered him. But something in the leader's eyes, defiant yet pleading, held him still. Without a word, he dismounted, tore strips from his own shirt, and bound the wound. He fetched water from his canteen, lifting it carefully to the warrior's lips. The Apache watched silently, suspicion in his gaze, but did not resist. Through the long night, the cowboy kept watch, keeping the fire small to avoid unwanted eyes. Coyotes howled in the distance, and the wounded man stirred restlessly in pain. The cowboy tended him as best he could, using herbs he'd learned about from traders and the little medicine he carried. When dawn broke, the warrior's condition had steadied. Before riding off, the cowboy left food and water at his side, unsure if the man would survive. What he didn't know was that his actions would be remembered far longer than he imagined. Days later, as the cowboy mended fences on his ranch, riders appeared on the horizon. The Apache tribe approached, their weapons ready, their faces stern. The cowboy stood firm, hand near his rifle but unwilling to provoke. Then, from their midst, the same leader he had saved rode forward, no longer frail but still healing. He raised a hand to halt his men. In the silence that followed, the leader declared in broken English that the cowboy had preserved his life, and for that, the tribe owed him a debt. The cowboy expected thanks, perhaps a promise of peace, but nothing more. Instead, the leader made a declaration that shocked him. As a gesture of honor, he offered his daughter's hand in marriage. The young woman stepped forward, her eyes dark as the night sky, her expression unreadable. She was proud, graceful, and clearly not a gift to be given lightly. The cowboy hesitated, humbled by the weight of the offer. He knew refusal might insult them, yet acceptance meant a life he had never imagined. After a long pause, he bowed his head in respect. The marriage took place in the Apache camp, beneath a sky ablaze with stars. Drums echoed, voices rose in chants, and the fire cast long shadows that danced with the wind. The cowboy felt out of place among them, a stranger in their traditions, yet he carried himself with dignity. The young woman stood beside him, silent but strong. Her people watched with wary eyes, measuring whether this outsider could truly honor their daughter. When the ceremony ended, the cowboy knew his life had been forever bound not just to her, but to an entire people. The early days were not easy. The woman, though bound to him, did not trust him. She spoke little, her loyalty lying first with her people. She watched him carefully, waiting to see if he would prove to be another settler who took without giving. The cowboy, for his part, gave her space. He did not demand affection, nor did he claim authority. Instead, he built their life quietly, working the land and ensuring she had choice in her daily ways. Slowly, her suspicions softened, though it never disappeared completely. Life together became a mixture of two worlds. She taught him words from her language, songs that carried the heartbeat of the desert, and ways to find water where the land seemed barren. He taught her the craft of ranching, of tending horses and mending fences, of cooking simple meals over a fire. Though they came from different worlds, necessity wove their lives together. They did not speak of love, but something unspoken grew between them, mutual respect, a quiet companionship born from survival. Their bond was tested when danger returned. One evening, riders from a rival gang stormed the ranch, seeking cattle and blood. The cowboy fought with grit, but he was outnumbered. Just as the situation turned dire, the woman called out in her native tongue, and from the shadows, Apache warriors rode in. They had not forgotten the cowboy's loyalty, nor the marriage that tied him to their leader's daughter. Together, they drove the raiders off, the desert once again echoing with the clash of survival. That night, the cowboy realized he was no longer alone in this world. In the months that followed, the woman's heart began to shift. She saw his courage, his fairness, and the way he treated her not as property but as a partner. He, in turn, admired her strength, her resilience, and the quiet fire in her eyes. One evening, as they sat by the fire after a long day's work, she sang a song of her people, her voice soft but filled with feeling. For the first time, she leaned against him, not out of duty but out of choice. The cowboy said nothing, but his hand rested gently over hers. Whispers spread in town about their union. Some mocked, others judged harshly, unable to understand a bond that crossed cultures and defied the prejudices of the frontier. But the cowboy and the Apache woman paid little attention. Their lives were built on the land, on the cattle, on the shared labor of each day. They faced storms, droughts, and the endless challenges of survival. Through it all, their bond deepened, not by words but by the simple acts of living side by side, choosing each other day after day. Years passed, and their partnership became legend among those who knew them. To the tribe, the cowboy was no longer just an outsider, he was family, bound by respect and by the life he had built with their daughter. To the settlers, he remained a quiet enigma, a man who had chosen a different path than greed or conquest. And to the woman, he was no longer simply the man who had saved her father, he was the man who had earned her trust, her loyalty, and, in time, her love. The desert carried many stories of cruelty, betrayal, and survival. But theirs was one of rare honor. What began with a wound and an act of mercy became a union that defied the harshness of the world around them. The cowboy never sought glory, and the Apache woman never sought rescue. Yet together, they found something few on the frontier ever did, a life of shared respect, born not from chains or conquest, but from a choice to see each other as equals in a land that offered nothing freely.